Hi, like you, I watched the council election results last week, and although the turnout was sometimes 20%, 25%, the majority of people are still voting for the Tories and for Labour, and I just can't get my head round that. Please, in the comments, tell me why you think that is. I can only think indoctrination because mum and dad used to vote for one or the other, or because gran and granddad used to vote for one or the other. That's the only reason I can see. Because both parties have got people affiliated with links to the World Economic Forum. Both parties seem to be inundated with people who support the World Health Organization being able to take over the sovereignty of a country on a whim when they say there's a pandemic or a health risk. Both parties seem to be backed by big corporate hedge fund managers with links to George Soros. And if you follow the hedge fund back and see who puts money into these funds, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The same Bill Gates that wants you eating bugs and a depopulation exercise carried out. The same Bill Gates who's worried about climate change, so has just bought a $43 million beachfront home. There's a guy that's worried about rising tides. Both parties seem to be full of liars. When Labour was last in, much of our money, much of our hard-earned taxpayers' money was spent on going to a war in the Middle East based on a lie. Obviously, Blair and Alistair Campbell next to him and the cabinet have never been brought to justice and probably never will be because they're in the right gang. Saddam Hussein was hung. I would say arguably Blair and co committed worse crimes than he did. He certainly didn't have weapons of mass destruction, and although a tyrant, he at least stabilised his own country, which hasn't happened since. Liars. Liars spending your money. And now, of course, we've got the Ukraine, a war that has nothing to do with us. And Russia have got no intent, and they haven't got the military capacity, other than nuclear, to invade our country anyway. It's a proxy war. It's a money-moving exercise. Liars. We've brought an unelected David Cameron out of the Lords to give away £3 billion a year to the Ukraine war effort, a war that I can't see an end to. Putin gave them loads of warning. I don't want a biological weapons lab on my borders, which is run by the United States. And I don't want you joining NATO because it was the part of the original pact when the USSR split up. And for an imperialist like Putin, no matter what you think of him, probably is a psychopath. I think all our leaders are psychopaths. No matter what you think of him, if he makes a promise, eventually he's going to come good on it. So we're giving money away left, right and centre. I see undocumented 40% of the people that come here in boats haven't got documentation. I see undocumented people just walking into the country, being given money, mobile phones and being put up in 5-star hotels. While our own people and immigrants from other countries who have been here a while are out in the street in sleeping bags, living under paper. Now, of course, that's a big problem. People say, oh, clear up homelessness. Yeah, you could have the houses, but there's things like mental health issues, drugs issues, all need to be addressed. But we have got a big homelessness problem. Veterans who fought for this country just disregarded by the government. It's a crime. It really is. And talking of crimes, poll tax. Sunak said the other day, this made me actually laugh out loud, keeping council tax low. Some people, council tax is now nearly £200 a month. It's like another mortgage. Yes, if you've got £760 million in the bank like Sunak has, council tax are probably low. But if you're the average Joe or Joess living on a minimum wage, council tax is very, very high. Rents are going through the roof because we haven't built enough houses, enough affordable houses, enough social houses. I was talking to a group in Hackney, a residents group. Some of them have been on the social housing waiting list for 16 years. 16 years. People have just voted in Sadiq Khan. That has to be a Muslim vote based on the fact that Sadiq Khan's a Muslim. It has to be, because I haven't yet spoken to a Londoner who voted for him. He's decimated London. Crime's through the roof. Everyone highlights knife crime, but there's other crimes. Robbery, burglary, car theft, through the roof. He's got these World Economic Forum Agenda 2030 net zero schemes, ULEZ, congestion charge. All it's doing is making people poorer. It's not saving the planet, because all we've done in the West is move our manufacturing, our steel making capacity, most refining, and we've moved it to China and Indonesia, and before we fell out with them, to Russia. They're pumping out double what the rest of the world used to be pumping out, but we are going for net zero. Surely even the most asleep, indoctrinated person can see that that is ridiculous. We've got old people literally freezing in their homes in the winter because of the sky-high energy bills. You go to the shops, I see the news, inflation's down to 10%, inflation's down to this, inflation's down to that. Means absolutely nothing to the average man in the street. They can say anything on the news. What I can see though is that a tin of soup that was 80p 2 years ago is now £1.70. What is that in terms of inflation? It's ridiculous. And all other food has gone up at a very, very similar rate. All I can see is that my shopping is so much more expensive now. We've had COVID to deal with, or have we? Flu disappears, COVID arrives. What happened there? Why did flu disappear? By people dying of COVID. There are lots of sources of evidence now saying that people were treated wrongly. We spent, was it £1 billion on Nightingale hospitals that were never used? It was, again, indoctrination. In my opinion, a control exercise. Also a money-moving exercise. Some of the richest people in the world got considerably richer during COVID, while you got considerably poorer. You don't know what to believe. It's lies, lies, lies. The BBC lies. ITV lies. Channel 4 News lies. Sky News lies. Lies, 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 lies. And yet people are still voting for Labour or the Tories. People say, Reform got 14, 17% or whatever. Reform, who are funded by the same hedge fund managers who fund the Tory party. What an alternative that is. And when I say that, I would have thought you would have supported Reform, Glenn, because. No, they're just controlled opposition in my view. They're funded by the same people who fund the Tory party, who fund GB News and fund Talk TV, or Talk Radio as it is now. Now, if you've got the same funders, presumably they've got the same aims. No, I don't trust them. I'm sorry. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of seeing the gaffes that these people make. Starmer wanted to lock down longer. Starmer is proper WEF. You are walking into tyranny if you vote for Starmer. You're walking into tyranny if you vote for Sunak. You're going to be having digital currencies where they can stop your money anytime they want. They won't be cash. You can have digital ID where you'll get a social credit score which could affect your digital currency. They will have total control over you. If you move out of your 15-minute city, your money can be stopped. You're in your electric car, which can be stopped. They'll have total control over you. And if you're voting Labour or Tory, you're voting for that. Do a bit of research. You're voting for that. We're long by the rosette stage. Oh, are you red or are you blue? Because red and blue both mean tyranny. And the Lib Dems, I'm not even going to go there. Ed Davey, partly responsible for the Horizon scandal in the post office, stood back from that. Another liar, in my opinion. You had Reform saying that care workers should be mandatorily vaccinated. And I'm sorry, as soon as you go against the Nuremberg Code, as soon as you go and say, oh, someone shouldn't have a choice, someone shouldn't decide what gets pumped in their body, as soon as you give up on full bodily autonomy for any reason, you've gone against the basic human rights of the people. And if you do it once, under what circumstances would you do it again? If the World Health Organization says there's a pandemic, flu's disappeared again, but now we've got bird flu. Oh, flu's disappeared again, but we've got the X disease. Are Tyson Co going to say, all right, yeah, need to have the jib jab, particularly if you're looking after vulnerable people? Probably. Done it once, why shouldn't they do it again? Nigel Farage wanted Tony Blair, yes, war criminal Tony Blair, installed as the vaccine czar. Watch my other videos, I go into more detail on that. So what am I going to do about it? Am I going to go away, moan on social media? Am I going to go away and moan to me mates in the pub? Am I going to moan to anyone who will listen, people at bus stops who will moan back at me and say, oh, it's terrible, we haven't got a choice, I'm thinking of spoiling my ballot? No, I'm going to stand. I've told a couple of close friends that was my intention, but I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand at the next general election. And where am I going to stand? Well, I've thought long and hard about it. And the place that I really love, that means most to me, I think, in life, even though I was born in London, is Leighton Buzzard. So I'm going to stand for South Bedfordshire and Leighton Buzzard. A lot of people will know in those areas that you get with Glen exactly what you see on the tin. Someone said to me the other day when I was in Leighton, they said, you know what, Glenn, I hated you as a footballer. It was one of my former football infos. But I'd vote for you purely because I know at least what you're telling me is honest. Whether I like it or whether I don't, it'll be honest. And I think we need to get honesty back. I'm not even sure anymore that the ballot box is the way we beat these bozos, but I'm going to give it a go. So I'm going to stand in that area. There's a lot of problems locally there that need sorting. You know, I mean, if someone says you've got to pay £40 extra to have your brown bin taken away when it's got grass in it, someone says that's a council tax rise. You can't say, oh, we've put a council tax rise on hold, but you've got to pay £40 extra to have your brown bin taken away, £20 extra for this, £30 extra for that. It's a council tax rise. Simple as that. Don't say you haven't put the council tax up, or, oh, we've only put the council tax up 10%, but you've got to pay extra for this, you've got to pay extra for that. In Leighton Buzzard and Dunstable, you've had massive, and I mean massive, increases in the population, but you haven't got very many extra doctors and dentists and schools. In those areas, not a lot of money's been put into the youth clubs that used to be somewhere where people could find different interests: football, tennis, pool, all sorts of interests. They've gone. That's why you get kids hanging around on street corners. Well, that and parents who can't be asked to look up from their mobile phone to see where their kids are. That and a total lack of discipline in the schools, and a total lack of discipline from a lot of parents. Kids not really knowing what's right from wrong because they'd never been told. Mum, Dad, I'm just going to set fire to the shed. Yeah, all right. Oh, you should see this TikTok. You're going to set fire to the shed? I'll film it and put it on TikTok. That's what we've become. So I think pressure needs to be put on those that make the decisions to open more dentists, more doctors, more youth clubs, to make sure that people who are committing crime get caught. But when they get caught, that there's a real deterrent. I saw the other day that a guy, he happened to be an immigrant, but let's just say he's white. He's a white Englishman. I saw the other day this guy, he'd raped a 13-year-old child, and the judge had let him off. Now, he got let off because in his culture, the judge wasn't sure that he knew he was doing something wrong. Totally irrelevant to the victim, but he got off because of that. So let's say we've got a white Englishman, for saying sake. That judge should be in prison for 10 years next to the guy that raped a 13-year-old kid, who should get 20 years. If you're carrying a knife in a public place and you haven't got a good reason, like you're a carpet fitter or you're a chef who likes using his own tools, or a real good reason, you should be nicked. 5 years. 5 years. Don't mess about. If you're carrying a gun, 10 years. We need to put pressure on to make this country livable again. I went to hear a guy speaking, Dr.Teck. He was above a pub. He was a doctor. He's an immigrant himself from, I think it's Malaysia. But he came many, many years ago, and he's been a doctor in the UK for 30 odd years. He opposed lockdowns, he opposed mandatory vaccinations, right from word go. He looked at the science behind this behind this COVID-19 molecule, and right from word go, he opposed the draconian actions that our government put into place. But that aside, he spoke about a common good. He spoke about not trusting the political parties of today and having a umbrella party for independence who were patriotic. They believed in Britain and they believed in a lot of what Britain stands for. Of course, Britain's been responsible for some horrific chapters in history. Of course it has. But do we keep beating ourselves up about that, or do we learn from history and move on and revise what we think? I think we celebrate the good, because I wasn't around when some of these bad things happened. And I'd like to say they wouldn't happen on this generation's watch. But when you think of some of the atrocities like the Iraqi war, that happened on all our watches, and Blair's still running around trying to get digital ID in place for his World Economic Forum paymasters. Nothing gets done. He gets airtime. BBC, ITV. Oh, here's Tony Blair. We're asking what he thinks about the red squirrel population. Who cares what Blair, a war criminal, thinks on anything? Anyway, Teck Kong is a patriot in the fact that he's proud to be a part of Britain. He's proud of the good things that Britain stands for, or did stand for. Respect for others, free speech, no blasphemy laws, the right to do what you want when you want. And he was worried about cultural Marxists. You've seen them. You know what a cultural Marxist looks like. Someone that doesn't give a monkeys, thinks everything in Britain is bad. A lot of them from middle class homes and even upper class homes, where they've been fed with silver spoons. They haven't had to go through wars, they haven't had to fight for anything, and they are quite happy to go on marches saying how everything is bad and everything needs to be changed. They should read what has happened to people in Marxist countries, because that's what they want here. And he was scared of that, and he wanted to get this umbrella group up, the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, and stand people under that banner. And he also wanted all the smaller parties who are patriotic, if you like, because they believe in this country and free speech and our values. He wanted them to come together in a non-aggression pact so that in each constituency, you've got, obviously, you're going to have your Labour and your Tories and your Reform and your Liberal Democrats, but there'd be an alternative party with the best candidate, whether it be an independent or whether it be Freedom Alliance or Alliance for Freedom and Democracy. You'd have a genuine alternative. Someone who cares about the community, and I mean really cares about the community. Someone who cares about the people. Someone who thinks we shouldn't be sending money all around the world to fund wars. Someone who thinks that we should build up our own armed forces in case we ever have to use them. But why send money abroad? Someone who wants that money invested in doctors, in dentists, in schools. Someone who's real. Someone who's not part of the political class. People need to have someone like that to vote for. I like what I heard from him. Immigration. If you land in this country without documentation, you're a criminal. No other country in the world would put up with it. Try landing in Pakistan with no papers on you. See how far you get. Try landing in Turkey. Try landing in Saudi Arabia. Try landing in Dubai. No papers. See what happens to you. See how far you get. Would they get hold of you and put you in a 5-star hotel, give you a mobile phone and a little bit of money to go on with? Do you think that would happen? So why are we doing it? Yes, you've got to open your arms to genuine refugees. Of course you have. It's part of being a human. But there's also a point where you're having the pee taken out you. And that's being real. And I think we've reached that point, and the Tories are doing nothing about it. Labour, we're going to have closer ties with the EU. Well, we've sent millions, hundreds of £1 to France to do something about the little boats crossing the channel, to do something about the traffickers that take thousands of pounds from these people who've got no money, mainly fighting age men, to come to this country. They've done nothing about it. So what we're going to do, we're going to have closer ties with the European Union. That should do something. Starmer is as much use as Anne Frank's drum kit, and that's a fact. He's a World Economic Forum puppet, and so is Sunak. And we need to fight back. Otherwise, I think in 10 years' time, we'll be fighting back in the streets. There'll be civil unrest. I can see only one reason why this amount of undocumented people are being allowed into the country, and that is for the purpose of civil unrest. And then, of course, they can introduce digital ID to keep us safe. Because a lot of people, when they're voting Tory and voting Labour, they want to be kept safe. COVID proved that. We need to be safe. We can't make our own decisions. We need the government to make our decisions for us. They'll keep us safe. It said it on the news. It said it on the news that they really care. And although they cocked up last time, and the time before that, and the time before that, and they spent all our money on things they shouldn't have been spending it on, had no mandate to spend it on, they're going to do better next time. So I'm going to vote for them. I think if we carry on voting for these people that are leading us towards tyranny, we'll get the government that we deserve. So I'm hoping people wake up, do a little bit of research. But the thing I get banged on at me is, you can make YouTube videos, or you can moan, do something about it. So I am. I'm going to stand under the banner of the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom as an independent, under that banner, but with no party whip. So I can act for the people of that area without being told what to do by a party. And I'm going to try and do my very best for those people, whether I get in or whether I don't. But I really sincerely hope that they vote for me as an alternative to these liars and these greed-fueled psychopaths. And that's all I can do. Spread the word and promise them that me, just the average Joe in the street, will have their best interests at heart. So I'm hoping you vote Glenn Maney, and I'm hoping you vote Alliance for Democracy and Freedom. And if you want to join the party, I'll put the link in the description. Help spread the word. Thanks for watching.